Hi, Warren.
Hi, Barbara. Glad to talk to you.
Oh, it's great to talk to you and to see you. The last,
Yes,
the
yes,
last time we had a conversation, I believe it was also remote, and it was a production meeting on the People's Violet,
right, right.
which for now is just postponed for a brief period of time.
I hope so. I'm still going to be working on it. So
Great. That's what I want to hear.
all right.
So when I think, though, about the body of work that you've done at the Minnesota Jewish Theater Company, it's been a great sequence for us. You directed first Photograph 51,
Yes.
and then also you've directed Jericho,
Mm-hmm.
Die,
Right. Mm-hmm.
The Tale of the Allergist's Wife, for which you
Mm-hmm.
won an Ivy Award.
Yes.
And what am I missing here?
Last Schwartz.
Last Schwartz.
Yes. And then The Whipping Man, of course, as an actor.
Right. So, do you have any memorable experience from all of those?
You know, one of the ironic things is, you know, how we talk about driveway moments when you're listening to the radio, especially NPR. I remember being at the hub in Minneapolis, getting ready to go into Michael's where Sam was working. And I heard on Science Friday, they were talking about a Photograph 51 because it was just opening, I think, at that time. And I was just stuck and listening to it and thinking about how fascinating that was. And I said to myself, you know, I would love to direct that show someday. And then I've forgotten how you got hold of me for directing that show, but it was just like, ask and you shall receive.
Well, I don't remember how I came to the decision to ask you to do that one. But I remember after I did and you read it, you told me how excited you were because you had such an interest in the subject
Yes.
matter, which was
Yes.
great. You know,
Yes.
you've worked at many theaters in the Twin Cities.
Yes.
Is there anything that all these different theaters have in common that might surprise us?
I don't know that it would surprise people, but I've done very little work in the larger theaters. I've done one show for CTC, and I think I've done 2 shows, if you don't count understudying at the Guthrie. But I love working in the small and mid-sized theaters. And the thing that I find people are surprised, it's like, don't you, you know, aren't your aspirations for getting to New York or only doing the Guthrie or doing, it's like, no, I love these small, intimate, often mission-driven theaters. That's kind of where my heart is.
Can you encapsulate why?
I think because there is a real sense of passion and integrity in these theaters. Um, it's not a commercial venture, you know. It's not Chanhassen, and I'm not making fun of all of these. Nor is it so large that we feel a commitment just to not just crank out the plays, but we're just driven to get this out to an audience as a product. Uh, so many of the smaller theaters, it's because we really love this particular play. We try to put together a group of people who are very committed to this particular play, and there develops a kind of passion, if you will. I tell people very often how I love the fact that you are very committed always to getting the best possible cast you can and the best possible design crew putting us all together. And that comes from that sense of passion for, we like this play. We want to get this play to an audience.
And that's what makes the Minnesota Jewish Theater Company work what it is. It's our artists, it's our directors and our actors and our team that come together so well to bring the story to life.
Right.
You started studying drama at, well, when you were in college. I know you
Yes.
did work prior, but at college you went to Notre Dame.
Mm-hmm.
And you also studied at a seminary, and I'm not sure if that was before or after.
That was before. That was my high school years.
Oh, okay. Your, what do you think you bring to your work that is framed by religion?
I think the thing that the religion really brings to me is I learned early on the sense of ceremony. And in the sense of ceremony, there is a direct connection between the people up on the altar and the congregation, the audience. Um, in elementary school, I was an altar boy. And I tell a story that kind of encapsulates what it's about, that is only half facetious. And I was raised in Dodge City, Kansas, which is a C city, which means I was raised Roman Catholic, which means we have a bishop. And I was a quite precocious, if I can pat myself in the back, kid as an altar boy. I really took to the Latin. I was an instructor for the Latin for other altar boys, and I was chosen to be one of the two special altar boys for the bishop in town. And one of them is the mitre bearer, the little pointy hat, and the other is the crozier bearer. Now, I was the best. I didn't get the crozier only because I was too short for it. But as I tell people, we're serving in the cathedral in the high mass, and there's a moment in the mass where the bishop takes the censer, the incense burner, Catholic smudge pot, and the bishop turns and smudges the whole sanctuary area. And then he hands it to one of the altar boys, me, who comes down center and faces the audience. Now, we were the only Black Catholic family in the parish. So I come down, I look out, I raise the censer, and 300 white people drop to their knees. How could I not want to be on a stage for the rest of my life? Now, I say that's half facetious because I really got the sense from early on, that sense of ritual, that sense of commitment to a particular ceremony for this particular audience. And, there are a lot of different ceremonies that we would go through that involved a lot of different things. So whether it was the Stations of the Cross or the particular ritual for the funeral or whatever it was, there is that real sense of meeting the needs and connection of the audience. So religion is kind of what pushed me into theater.
Well,
I think I've substituted theater for religion.
I believe, like many people do, that at some point in an artist lover's life, they've had an aha moment that impels them to continue keeping the arts in their life. And it feels to me like maybe the first time you came down center stage and all those people were so attended to you that was a moment that was so great for you, and what it left you feeling,
Yes.
that it impacted you in a lifelong way.
Plus, the thing is, getting a sense of recognition, but also a sense of responsibility. Of the eighth graders, and during Holy Week, only 4 were chosen to read the Passion from the Gospels. And it was incredible that one of these elementary school kids was doing it. But I remember too being chosen, I've forgotten which of the Gospels Passion that I read, but that real sense of responsibility. So it went far beyond just getting up there and showing off. There was that sense of, I have a duty in here. And I think that's kind of my approach to theater too. Uh, when I either go to the theater or we're preparing something for the audience, I really think that we as artists, as theater craftspeople, if you will, really have a sense of duty, responsibility to this audience. So yeah, it formed my theatrical career.
When you did Jericho, it was only after the fact, I believe, although I can't really recall, but you flew out to New York, took the LIRR, or the Long Island Railroad, to the town of Jericho and took a bus around town to, why did you do that? I think that's very special.
Well, I I've forgotten. I want to think it was Peter Brooks, but it may not have been whoever. I read once that they went to the Middle East to see the area to prepare for a particular play, and people are going, hey, "Why would you do that? What a waste that is!" But I think that if you can, to get a really good sense of what the playwright is drawing on for his or her play, it really helps you in doing justice to the play. Um, in a different play, Trying, which I did at Park Square Theater, uh, it takes place in Georgetown. He's attorney general, and he has this little workspace behind his home that 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 the play is centered in, and it is his tiny world. Well, Michael Hoover was the designer for me, and we had these kind of rather fantastical ideas of what it should be. But there, because I was doing a show on the East Coast, I was able to go to Georgetown, go and really go out behind this house. It's a wonder I wasn't arrested to see the particular space, and it really changed my idea of what that room should be, and worked very well for Michael. Well, going to Jericho, it's I think, like many people, I have an idea of New York that is really just Manhattan. You know, when we say New York, we're generally talking about Manhattan, but there's much more to it. And for Jericho to get out there, I realized, wait a minute, for a lot of us, we hear Long Island and we're thinking Staten Island, you know?
Oh, really?
We don't really have a sense of what Long Island is, you know? Oh, Brooklyn can be a part of the end of Long Island. It's like, oh, wait a minute. And to get out there and see it, and I thought, oh, I understand this family much more. Talking to people about the town of Jericho and the people that are there, and the way they keep fast food restaurants out of the town, because the area is so important to the people. The culture of Jericho is so important, really influenced the way I approach the play.
I know growing up in Queens, my family went into Manhattan often, but when we went to Long Island, it definitely was different.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
definitely. Even though you get in the car, you just keep going. You cross the border from Queensboro to Nassau County, you know, Queens County to Nassau County, but it definitely felt different.
Yeah.
We've got just another minute. Is there anything you can say about your approach to the People's Violin coming up?
Well, it's interesting to me. It's the first time I've ever said to you, remember, that I don't know if I can do this, because I don't know if me not being Jewish and not being a Jew, is there stuff that I'm missing in there? And you were kind of, it's kind of like you were saying, do your job. You're a director, approach that. And I went back to it and I realized, oh, this is just a very difficult play. our designer, Michael Hoover. That's what he was saying too. This is a hard play. So that's where we're at. I think it's a very, very interesting story about family and discovery and about learning about ourselves and learning the structure of the play was very difficult, but really makes me, now that I have ideas on it, looking forward to doing it.
I'm very excited, and I know our audiences are going to love it as well. So thank you for accepting this project. That's for
Oh,
sure.
absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for being challenging, as you always are. You make such great choices.
Thank you, Warren.
You really
Thank
do.
you. Thanks. We'll talk soon.
All right.
All right. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.